Blessed love and peace. We done got some sunshine. Might need to get some lotion or something too. Maybe even a mirror. Other than this joint, maybe that's interesting. Maybe that's why I do it, because I don't have a mirror. Anyway, back at it. Same spot. What up? Basically, the one thing I have to share at the moment, amidst all the things that's happening, what had happened was this joint. I may marry a prostitute. That shouldn't sound any further crazy than anything else that I communicate. But the actuality is just recognizing the conditions of civilization today, particularly in the belly of the beast. And the basic facts is that we can reason about this, however, and this is no shade on anyone, but just looking at the actuality of things and being very candid about it. It's that a call girl is as honest and corrupt as a co-ed. Call girls are as honest and corrupt as co-eds. Co-eds being sistren who are attending university. Wear the same clothing. A call girl being somewhat like a high-end prostitute. And they sound crass. This is just the actualities. So the point is that it's not. I mean, similar behavior, to be honest, in terms of promiscuity. Otherwise, for different pretenses of quid pro quo. And again, I'm not innocent in all of this either. So I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just talking about the conditions, particularly for the interest of healing. I am a medicine man now. Blah blah. But anyways, just recognizing like how much those are. I won't say synonymous, but at the same level. So, particularly, the consideration is how call girls, in that respect, across a broad spectrum, across a long spectrum, have a tendency of being further honest about the conditions of life, society, the injustices, the prejudices, the bullshit. Whereas sistren who are attached to the hierarchies of conventional society have much further motivation of ignoring and pretending that these things don't exist, of hiding away from it, discouraging honest conversation about it, and otherwise. And that is taught, that is conditioned from an early age, and by the time sistren are, we can say 18 years old, particularly 18 years old, is significantly entrenched within the psyche of sistren and brethren. But I'm not at, well, I won't do it in a dismissive way like that, but my focus is on sistren in terms of marriage and otherwise, but the same thing applies in that respect. So, as a man, 50 years old, still searching for marriage, and additionally, with all the TMI and cringe and narcissistic susceptibilities, accusations, and otherwise, recognizing that even when sistren have an interest, or even are somewhat bemused or whatever by some element of charisma or honesty or integrity or whatever else that may attract a woman to myself and consider relationship and or marriage with myself, one thing that is emphasized on my side and from our side is like to like get through the honeymoon very expediently, so that it's not mistaken of just like being making decisions or whatever else whilst being intoxicated by any kind of charm or whatever else. So there's a purposefulness within being candid, within being blunt, within being awkward, within not giving two fucks or otherwise. So that is part of the consideration, and recognizing again, sistren are in conventional hierarchy of society, are taught, are conditioned, are programmed. Everybody's programmed and taught and conditioned one way or the other, but particularly sistren who are in at university, attending university, particularly at this time when it's such a divisive phenomenon, the apartheid, the class apartheid within um, post cosmopolitan society. Sisters who are at that level um, have gone through years of conditioning and socialization to be very classist, also racist, and basically just separatist, and only connect with kinfolk who are of the same ilk. Um, and that includes pretending the injustices within one's own community don't exist, having all these um, um, Wickerty Walkerty platforms of politics and prejudices and hostilities towards otherness. That becomes very hardened at even at the age of 16, 15, 16, even like 13, to be honest, probably around puberty, but particularly even as a teenager, and particularly by the point of going to university, particularly because a woman's and even any student's propensity of ascending through the hierarchies of ivory towers, university, getting connected with the right or the favorable clubs and associations is predicated upon being able to talk this rhetoric and speak from it experientially through anecdotes about vacation spots and unsatisfactory service workers and otherwise. That's all part of the socialization within the conditions of apartheid, and so that becomes very hardened in young women at an early age, and then it becomes doubled down. It becomes officially, formally entrenched through the guise of citizenship. That's where like it becomes the official, like it's actually perhaps one way of looking at it is actually marriage, the commitment. So all that being said, for kinfolk such as myself that walk in a different realm, even when there's the physical attraction, primal whatever, let me tell it from whatever side, recognizing the prospect of marriage. From this side, the endeavor is not to convert or convince or otherwise. We can communicate and share as it's amenable from other kinfolk, and particularly from women. But in terms of trying to convert or convince, it's not that. And so in that initial experience of maybe some charm or smile or whatever, and being open up to conversation, that conversation leading into one of like, okay, so are you ready to give up citizenship? Okay, are you ready to give up everything that you own and walk this life? That's a big step. So the actuality is that the sisters who are at university, beautiful, intelligent sisters who are doing the best each one can, and is very interested in spiritual path, and additionally it's a huge step to do what we do, and that's recognized, as seen. So we're not trying to pose them. We're not saying anyone is less for not doing it, but particularly for myself in being guided to be in partnership, in relationship, in marriage with a woman, that's what's involved. So and recognizing how difficult it is for a woman in that experience of life, even at a young age, still being flexible, still being somewhat green in terms of learning about life and willingness of learning about others and making adjustments in life and whatever else. It's a huge step, and it's a huge step to solicit, and it's not easy, and it's not a guarantee. So that's the difficulty of getting from that initial introductions or small talk into, all right, so marriage now. Now that being said, and again, some of it also is like when getting away from the small talk and away from the charm and kind of sobering up and getting through that honeymoon point, then it's a matter of like calling things out. Kinfolk can call things out about myself. A woman can call things out about myself if she knows anything about me. Her parents can call things out about myself. We can talk about that. But everything about me is cultivated through significant reason. I'm not perfect. I'm still full of shit. But it's a very tenuously, like diligently cultivated piece of shit. Everything I do is extremely intentional. I'm not perfect still, and I make inaccuracies and indulgences and everything else like that. But even then, there are multiple thorough reasons for everything that I do. Um, so we're willing to have the reason, but what was the experience is that there are few people in this life that I know of, even just have heard of, that go to the extent of like trod in a severe, diligent way. Most of the kinfolk that do this are actually committed to a life of celibacy and not partnership with anybody, which is actually easier in many respects. It's a difficult life in its own way, but in terms of relationship and focus, and additionally, I can't speak from experience because I've never made that promise or that vow, but that's what's taught, that the household life is very difficult, and to live in a righteous way is extremely difficult when being in a household way, meaning in marriage and raising children. So, anyways, kinfolk can chop it up, accuse me of anything, charge me with anything. I stand before God on a daily basis. I'm no better or worse than anybody else, but the crucible is a daily experience. So, and that's a difficult thing to invite somebody else into, or even just introduce, because technically I'm not introducing it. Everybody's already experiencing it, but some people just don't want to, like, whatever. All right. So, exactly. Um, so there's a further point that I'm saying here. My point basically about talking with sister co-eds. I meet many beautiful sisters through the years, even within recent days, that are like I said, intelligent, beautiful, striving to be honest and peaceful and compassionate, and just and kind in this life. Um, and so I'm not belittling. I'm not casting shade. I'm just like talking about things, because at the same time, just to be at university, I'm involved in this when I was at university. I'm involved in it even when I talk about university as an alumnus or otherwise. But I mean, there's just the things that are going on in society. It's epitomized within the university experience, and so when we attach so much of our identity, much of our value of self, based upon those that affiliation, it's difficult to be honest about that, and it's difficult to distance oneself from that. So that's just part of the flip side of status, and quote unquote privilege. So that being said, the thing, so that's what's difficult in terms of talking about that with a young sister at the university age, or attending school. Now, that being said, when I talk about call girls, how many call girls do I know in life? Probably further than what, most definitely further than what I can. How do I put this? I'll just say many, that are explicit and outright, and many that are low key on the QT. So, anyways, that being said, part of the experience of talking with sisters who are in that type of walk is that further honest about injustices, are further able to talk about injustices, and further receptive to taking that step that I described. So, whilst there may be other challenges, particularly concerning a history of promiscuity, and additionally in all the cosmic, karmic, psychic kind of malaise and dissonance that exists with that, I'm not perfect myself either. Amidst those challenges, there is a comparative ease in terms of relatability, and a willingness to, like, yo, okay, let's walk this walk. And anyways, that's some of the consideration. So, like, looking at how much, well, comparing a 17-year-old call girl to a 17-year-old co-ed. There are certain differences, but at the same time, there are very strong similarities. So, that's pretty much the gist of it. Nothing. There's an absence of anything like earth-shattering per se. Um, I already shared. I just uploaded the joints about the incident this past week. We keep on going with what we got, and yeah, I mean, we're basically, we're honing it in. We are and it's not out of fear. We're already planning to do this beforehand, but this is particular. This is actually, ironically, the incident this past week actually delays our honing it in. By honing it in, I'm talking about like just laying low, focusing on the home front. We already said that before. Garden up, push back is our mode right now. Same thing. So we're already like hunkering down and kind of just like distancing from the dissonance that surrounds. We're already on that mode. And actually, when the incident happens this past week, there's things that happened before that too. But particularly after that joint, and particularly in terms of like diplomacy, there's a necessity of there, I shouldn't say necessity. There's an increased prioritization of confirming communications and copaceticness, letting kinfolk see that we're not in a clapback mode, and we're not. It's not a matter of just absorbing it and taking it, but it's like we got much further, greater priorities than this tit for tat punk coward bullshit. So just let kinfolk know, and the usual suspects and otherwise. Like, we're focusing on something else. So don't try to think. For those that who have questions about our affinity or our relationship or copaceticness, we share. We make some visits and we share some conversations in the past week that we're already planning to, but like it's been put off for a number of reasons over recent months. But we make some visits in a peaceful, reconciling way. We are provided with information about the conditions and particularly the incident that we can't speak about because it's unspoken. But that's what we're talking about. So we've been provided with information concerning the organizers of the incident and otherwise. So like I said, we're dealing with things beyond the senses. So what is priority is continuing back into our spiritual path, and that includes, like I said, laying low. As I mentioned, I'm kind of going back and forth here, but that last week, as we're supposed to be getting ready for laying low, the high holy days within the tradition of Israel are approaching. There's the new year within the Gez calendar. Paryushan just occurred in Jain, so we're in this mindfulness of atonement and attunement and otherwise. So we've already been in this zone. And ironically, the incidents of this past week actually, like I said, prompt us to go out of the zone. We've wrapped up the online thing for the past few months, so now we're kind of that is other than a weekly obligation at this point. We saw the proclivity of being online, but in terms of like a stated thing of us being online, we've completed that session, that series, or whatever else. So we've made preparations for being low key. So us being low key is not a specific result of the incident from a week ago. In actuality, like I said, we've actually been out further than what we were planning to be in the past 2 weeks. Now, on that being said, now that things have been communicated. We have uploaded the incident itself. We've talked to kinfolk in the hoods, and just let people see the energy, like where we're at, mindful-wise and everything. So kinfolk can be further assured, because kinfolk are at each other, and whenever there's doubt about any particular group, that doubt can fester into further suspicion. So even when things are done to us and kinfolk see things done to us, then they think, oh, they might think we did it, and then like perceive us as enemy or whatever else. So that's one of the reasons why we are proactive in going out and sharing and being with kinfolk in a genuine way. No cap, no BS, whatever else. And again, you read the energy. But that's where it is. We also communicate, like, no apologies are not accepted. No apologies are accepted from anybody. It's only when kinfolk let go of their citizenship and stop doing this bullshit, and the United States dissolves itself, that anything about apology or reconciliation or teshuva or repentance or anything else like that can be genuinely discussed, because otherwise it's bullshit. It's the abusive husband beating the wife, sobering up the next day and saying, oh, I'm sorry. Shut the fuck up, everybody. United States citizens, we love you and peace and blessings to you, but shut the fuck up. We don't want to hear anything of that. Stop. Get off the bus. Get off the boat and do right. But we don't want to hear the duplicitous, fake, apologetic bullshit as I sit. So, anyways, do I sound mad? Anyway, we'll get off that. So, no apologies. No, own up, own it, own it. Own it or get off it, one or the other. Own it or get off it. That's across the board. All my family, all my friends, everybody I know in life who's a U.S. citizen. Own it or get off it. We still love you. We still talk. We still communicate. Much of it is on a transactional basis only at this point because of these conditions. So that's what things are. No hate. Ain't got no malice. We are protected. We are protecting. So that's what this is. Obviously, I'm comfortable enough to just keep on talking about my TMI, marital status and otherwise. So technically, I don't know if it's TMI. But anyway, so this is the same old thing. Communicated for a long time about doing these joints less. I'm also speaking English, which means this is expensive. What is required is land for Aomi Kutuhaun. Aomi is the name of a people. Aomi is the are three syllables that are shared amongst the many languages of the world. Each one has a certain significance, religious, spiritual, esoteric significance. So without there being a definitive categorical definition, we can look at Aleph from Hebrew, similarly with an Arabic, that phonetic, the first letter. We have Om, the sacred syllable from Sanskrit, India, and then E is another balancing syllable. We can also see the proximity with the pronunciation of the number 1 from Chinese Mandarin language as well. So that is some of the basic essence of Aomi. Obviously, it abstains from representing or drawing from every specific or all the different linguistic groups of the world. But that's the basics. There's a significance that is nearly universal, at least on this earthly experience. So we'll see how long this term and whatever continues. So that applies to people who are of mixed heritage, multiculturalism, third culture kids, and similarly inclined kinfolk who share the one love and such. So that's the requirement. A Kutuhaun, a mixed culture village for the services provided in these words. So that is that. So anything else for this moment? That's much of it at this point. I talked before about the call girl and the co-ed. 17-year-old might sound illegal. That type of assessment speaks further about the atrocities of society, the normalization of the atrocities of society, rather than obedience to comparatively arbitrary numerology. And that's not R. Kelly pimp talk. That's actuality, natural talk. Recognizing adulthood beginning with puberty, the propensity for procreating doesn't exist at a specific, doesn't begin at a definitive universal age. But the significant life phenomenon that is signified in that recognition of adulthood is that through the ages, for thousands of years, it's not some collective of 60-year-old men who are pedophiles and homosexuals and promiscuous pimps saying a particular number and then making policies that are very fortuitous in guiding youth underneath that age into paths of corruption and manipulation, and then severe consequences for kinfolk above that age. So did I make that age somewhat older for my own personal benefit, calling the brethren 60 years old? Okay, we can say 50 years old. 50-year-old brethren, collective in Congress and otherwise, making an arbitrary number and then changing it from 18 to 16 or from 16 to 21, depending upon if there's a draft or otherwise. But then you can't drink unless it's this, and this accompanied by adult, and then you have to be careful what you see, whether it's NC-17, R-rated, or PG-13. It's all bullshit arbitrariness from people who from people who are corrupt. So to get so fixated on that draws attention away from what actually is happening. So there are protections that are needed, and there are protections that are being violated by just blindly buying. So I'm getting a little bit snarky now. I'm going to catch the breeze and relax for a minute by the grace of the Most High. So that's the joint from the moment. Anyone who wants to claim some type of propriety about the services, the institutions, the facilities, the utilities that are facilitating the provision of this message to whomever it reaches, that's beautiful. Can claim all that type of ownership and propriety and ownness of being provided with gratitude for participating in the provision of all these wonders of technology. And at the same time, you better ante up on the pollution too, if you're going to accept the ownership of all this. So ante up on the pollution too, and on the imposition, the imposed pollution, and the imprisonments and otherwise. So take all the credit you want in the world. Take all the credit. Take all the ownership. Take all you want, and recognize that when you do that, what is attached to that as well. We give all thanks and praise to the Most High. It all comes from Creator. Whatever name we know Creator by, it all comes from that. We give thanks to kinfolk who are mediators, who are middle people, who facilitate connection additionally. But all thanks and praise goes to the Most High. And anyone who wants to claim ownership of anything, devices, signals, services, and otherwise, ante up and claim it all, because it's coming at you one way or the other as long as you're holding on to it. It's kind of like what they call that, the ring of the whatever, the leader of the rings. You want to put that ring on? Okay. I don't even know how that story ends or how that story goes. J.R. Tolkien, all I know from back in the 80s. So all that being said, it's a very quiet day today. Beauty and all things to praise the Most High. Blessed love and peace and Rastafari.